What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. I've been thinking about the impact of Travis Kelce's retirement on the Chiefs dynasty. Is it going to slow them down at all, or are they going to find a way to overcome this loss just like they did with Tyreek Hill? Because when they traded away Tyreek Hill a few years ago, I thought that was it, and they just continued to win two more Super Bowls. They went back to back. Travis Kelce, though, has been a main cog of the Chiefs machine. When you think of the Chiefs dynasty, what they've been this era, you think of Andy Reid, Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. They've been the big three, and without him, it just won't feel the same. But I don't see that slowing them down one bit at all. There's two teams I constantly see Shedeur being mocked to that Deion is not going to allow him to get drafted by at all. I want to reveal them and how they could potentially pull a Eli Manning in the upcoming draft. I want to rank the five best quarterbacks from the 2020 NFL draft. We are 4 years removed from that draft class, and all five of these QBs have received contract extensions. This has been one of the best quarterback classes in NFL history. We're going to rank them 1 through 5, best to worst, AFC West approval ratings. We rate every head coach in every division on a scale of 0 through 100 based off their job performance. And then Cooper Kupp is a hot name in the trade market that no team should have any interest in trading for. Before we dive into it, we want to hear from you. If you have any questions that you would like answered on a future episode, send them in the DMs on Instagram at JT Sports _ and on X at JT Sports __. Please, if you want your question answered, we will feature it in the episode. Just send it in the DMs and we'll get to it. Go ahead, follow us as well. Let's dive into it. Travis Kelce, his future is up in the air. Is he going to retire? Is he going to come back and play one more year? Regardless, if he decides to retire, it's not going to hurt the Chiefs dynasty at all. Remember when Kansas City traded away Tyreek Hill a few years ago? That's when a lot of us thought that was going to be the start of their decline. And all they did was proceed to win back-to-back Super Bowls and almost three-peat. The Chiefs dynasty is bigger than Travis Kelce. Mahomes and Andy Reid are the machine that makes this engine run. When you think of what the Chiefs have been during this generation, you think of the big three: Andy Reid, Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. But the two most important cogs are still there for this engine to operate smoothly and effectively. And plus, even when Travis Kelce was on the field during these postseason games, he wasn't really doing too much at all. So in some capacity, they were winning without Travis Kelce in terms of winning despite him not playing that well. Xavier Worthy showed a lot of promise during the second half of last year. He became one of their go-to targets during their Super Bowl run. With Rashee Rice coming back in 2025 this year, him and Xavier Worthy could quickly establish themselves as arguably the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. We know if Kelce ends up retiring that the Chiefs are going to have some kind of contingency plan. But part of being a dynasty is being able to adapt to losing great players. The Patriots have lost a ton of great players during the Belichick-Brady dynasty. That's just part of the game of football. Everybody can't play this sport forever. Great franchises have to be able to draft well or find suitable replacements in free agency, and that's what the best teams that are always contending normally tend to do. without Travis Kelce, I would like to believe that it's going to be a little bit more enjoyable watching Kansas City Chiefs games now, because with him being retired, we don't have to see Taylor Swift being shoved down our throats every time the Chiefs are playing on TV. There's a little bit of good that could come out of Travis Kelce potentially hanging up the cleats this offseason. But as I said earlier, regardless what he decides to do, the Chiefs dynasty is not going to slow down regardless, as long as Mahomes and Andy Reid are still there and they're fully functioning. They're always going to be in the mix. There shouldn't be any mock drafts out there that have Shedeur Sanders going to either the Tennessee Titans or the Cleveland Browns. There's no way in hell Deion's going to allow Shedeur to get drafted by any of those two teams. The Titans are most likely going to draft Cam Ward first overall, or they're going to trade down. They just fired Rand Carthon. Deion wants his son to be put in a situation to succeed, especially with all of the high expectations and the pressure that he's going to have on him due to the last name on the back of his jersey. So he needs to be in a situation that gives him the best chance to have success and to have it early. Going to the Tennessee Titans, who have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. They spent the most money in free agency last offseason, and yet they still finished with the worst record in the NFL, picking first in the draft. That tells you everything that you need to know about this franchise. They are running through head coaches. They're running through general managers. Deion is not about to allow Shedeur to go to that sinking ship in Nashville. Maybe Cam Ward can overcome it. Deion isn't about to roll the dice with Shedeur's career that in that direction. The Cleveland Browns are the Cleveland Browns. Once again, they have reverted back to their old ways. At one point, the Browns looked like they were trending in the right direction. They were close to being a Super Bowl contender, but they threw it all away, making the deal with the devil, trading for Deshaun Watson, and that has pretty much restored them back to their state of poverty. Deion Sanders knows that the Browns aren't the great place to go to for rookie quarterbacks. Every quarterback they draft always ends up being terrible. Johnny Manziel, Brady Quinn, they just are a place where rookie quarterbacks go to die. I can keep naming the list. Remember Deshaun Kaiser? Deion is going to use his leverage to pull a Eli Manning and help Shedeur go to either the Giants, the Raiders, or a better situation. The Titans and the Browns, you can make the argument that they're two of the biggest dumpster fires going into this offseason with free agency looming. The Titans right now could end up having another head coach around this same time next season. You just hired a new general manager. He wasn't the same guy who hired Brian Callahan. So you don't know if he's going to be around for next season if the Titans don't end up making it to the playoffs. Therefore, Shedeur is going to end up going in a year or two, learning a new system under a new head coach. The key to a young quarterback's development and success in the league hinges on the stability on the coaching staff. You're not going to get that going to the Titans or going to the Browns. The Browns situation is a big red flag for any rookie quarterback, rather it be Shedeur or Cam Ward. Normally, when you have a young quarterback that gets inserted into a situation like this where you have a head coach and a general manager that's on the hot seat, and they come in with the expectations of being the savior who can save the jobs of the head coach and the GM, it always ends up being a disaster. It just happened this past season with the Chicago Bears. Look what happened with Matt Eberflus. He got fired midway through the season after Thanksgiving with Caleb Williams. He was supposed to be the best rookie quarterback prospect ever, and he ends up being the third best quarterback from his class, and he was the first player taken in this draft. Deion is not going to allow Shedeur to play for the Titans or the Browns. I expect either a massive trade up from either the Giants, the Raiders, or somebody else who's looking for a quarterback that wants to draft Shedeur. With Najee Harris about to hit free agency, I wanted to take a little bit of time to give my retrospective on his career as a Pittsburgh Steeler. And I'm going to be honest, it's been a massive letdown. I expected more out of Najee Harris when the Steelers drafted him in the first round in 2021. I thought we were getting a upgraded version of Derrick Henry. He's 230, 240, really physical runner. But what made him somewhat of an upgraded version of Derrick Henry as a prospect coming out of Alabama was that he was really effective catching the football out of the backfield. He also was pretty good running routes as well when he lined out as well. He hasn't looked like the same player in the NFL that he did at Alabama. When you draft a running back in the first round, you expect to see explosive back, somebody who's a home run threat every time they put their hands on the football, like Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. Najee Harris is not in the same tier of any of those running backs, despite being a first-round pick like them. The Steelers, looking back on it, I know hindsight is 2020. Drafting Najee Harris was a waste of a first-rounder. Having 1,000 yards rushing your first 4 seasons in the league is a cool accomplishment, but it's nothing more but a cool accomplishment. It doesn't conduce to wins and losses. All you need to get to 1,000 rushing yards is to at least average 56 yards per game. Najee Harris, for 2 out of his last 4 seasons in the league, he has ranked 20th or below in yards per game. His career average is around 61 to 60. That's league average. The Steelers drafted a first-round running back that has played like a average running back in the NFL. If we were to do a redraft, Najee Harris ends up being a round 3, round 4 pick. The biggest reason why Najee Harris hasn't been the superstar back in the league that he looked like at Bama is due to his lack of explosiveness. He does not have that second gear. He doesn't have that elite twitchiness that you normally see out of first-round backs. Najee Harris is an old-school throwback. He's like a Jerome Bettis, but more athletic. The Steelers shouldn't pay him anything more than $6-8 million, or not even that. They shouldn't even pay him anything more than $4 million a year. If he's asking for anything more than that, they shouldn't bring him back. Running back is easily the most replaceable position in the NFL. That's why when the Steelers first drafted Najee Harris, the pick wasn't met with an overwhelming positive reception. It had its supporters and its detractors. I wanted Najee Harris. That's why I'm so disappointed in how his career turned out. He just doesn't have any juice at all when he runs the ball. His vision isn't that good. He's good at making guys miss. He can run through you. He has finished top 10 in yards after contact several times throughout his 4 seasons. He also was a Pro Bowler during his rookie year, but that's the problem. His first season in the league was his best season up to this point. How can you peak so early into this point of your career? He's averaging 3.9 yards per carry, which is below average among NFL backs, and he doesn't have the same impact on the passing game that he had at Alabama playing for the Steelers. Najee is a good person, a good leader, a high character guy. He just isn't a good fit for what the Steelers need at running back. Jalen Warren, who was undrafted, was taking snaps away from Najee Harris. He was more explosive, more dynamic than what he was. In today's new NFL, a guy like a Najee Harris is not worth the first round pick. Unless you are a Saquon, Jameer, or Bijan Robinson, you are an elite high tier athlete. Drafting an old school power back in today's NFL is a waste of a first rounder. You need an explosive back. You need a true weapon. And that's not what Najee Harris has been for Pittsburgh. He hasn't really been too much of a difference maker on this offense. He's an average back. And that's why he has been a massive letdown. I thought he would have been a superstar, not mid. This is another first round miss that the Steelers have had over these last couple of drafts. They are one of the best drafting franchises in the NFL. They've been kind of slipping these last couple of years, though. Let's be honest. We're about to rank the 5 best quarterbacks from the 2020 NFL draft. Before we do, though, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss when we drop new content. Remember, we are not just a YouTube channel. We are a podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. The JT Sports Podcast is available. The links are down in the description down below. Giving us a 5-star review is the equivalent to donating $1,000 to the channel. It helps us out a lot. So go ahead. Give the JT Sports Podcast a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast from. I want to rank the 5 best quarterbacks from the 2020 NFL Draft, which took place 4 years ago. It's crazy how fast time has flown by. All 5 of these quarterbacks have received contract extensions, and this is one of the best quarterback classes in the history of the NFL. At number 1, I got Joe Burrow. He was an MVP candidate this year. He would have won MVP if the Cincinnati Bengals defense didn't let him down so many times, along with Evan McPherson. He's been to a Super Bowl. He was able to do that in spite of the Bengals having the worst offensive line in the league that season. I don't feel like Joe Burrow gets enough respect. He isn't as talented as what Lamar, Mahomes, and Josh Allen are. But what separates him from those 3 guys is he's the most cerebral quarterback in the league. He can beat you with his mind, his IQ. He's this generation's closest equivalent to Tom Brady. He's really good destroying you from inside the pocket, but he has really good mobility that has improved tremendously over these last couple of years. That big touchdown run he had Sunday night last season against the New York Giants caught me off guard. I don't know about you, but he was looking like Vanilla Vic out there. At number 2, I have Jalen Hurts. He is the only quarterback from this 2020 quarterback class to win a Super Bowl. He's beaten Patrick Mahomes, only the second quarterback to do so in the Super Bowl behind Tom Brady, who's retired. Say what you want about Jalen not being that talented. He somewhat plays like a above average game manager, but to me, you have to give Jalen Hurts his credit for being consistent. Yeah, he does have a great situation around him, and we know that if he was in worser situations, he might not be as good. But compared to other guys in this draft class, Jalen Hurts, when everything around him is going well, in the biggest games, he always performs his best. He has stepped up in the Super Bowl the 2 times they played Kansas City, and even when they lost the first one, he was going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. He was just as good as what he was during that game. I look at Jalen Hurts as a elite quarterback, or if you don't want to say he's an elite quarterback, a tier beneath that. If I was to rank every quarterback in the NFL right now, he would be 6. He's not the most flashiest, although he is a really good runner, but he's the most consistent and he always delivers in the big games as long as he has a really good situation around him. Justin Herbert comes in at number 3 for me. Some friends that I have talked to have Justin Herbert ranked number 2 from quarterbacks out of this draft behind Burrow because of his talent, his physical upside. This isn't a ranking at all is based off talent. It's about performance too. And let's be honest, the 2 times Justin Herbert has been to the postseason, he folded in the second half. This past season, his receivers let him down somewhat, but some of those interceptions were on him, and he does have a tendency to kind of get tight in big moments sometimes. And in certain games, he delivers, like against the Cincinnati Bengals this past year on Sunday Night Football. He stepped up big late in that game. Overall, Justin Herbert just hasn't had a stable enough coaching situation to allow him to take that next leap, to be able to have that big time performance in the postseason. But I feel like that's about to come really quickly after this offseason once the Chargers can get more pieces around them and they can continue to build up that defense. Remember, this was a team that had cap constraints. They weren't expected to be as good as what they were this past year. They overachieved. Justin Herbert was a huge reason why. And when they get a better team around them, it's going to be scary for anybody else that ends up having to go up against Herbert in the postseason. Jordan Love comes in at 4 for me. I don't know what Jordan Love is right now. The same question that I'm asking about Jordan Love in 2025 is the same question that we were asking around this same time last year about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, when he took the Eagles to the Super Bowl the first time they played against Kansas City, and he was an MVP candidate, that was a breakout year. And his stock was heavily inflated due to that breakout year. And the season after, he came back down to earth somewhat, and we didn't know how good he truly was. This season, we found out that Jalen Hurts actually is a really good quarterback. Some may say he's elite. Some may say he's a tier below being elite. But he's consistent and he delivers. Jordan Love is the complete opposite, though. He's not consistent. His upside is better than Jalen's. When he's playing his best, you want him over Jalen Hurts any day of the week. The issue with him is he has this Brett Favre mentality when he'll throw ill-advised interceptions. He can get loosey-goosey with the football. His footwork is all over the place. And just certain stretches during the season, he can be up and down. He has his peaks and valleys. Like during his first season being the starter, the first half wasn't that good. The second half, the dude was arguably one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the game. He damn near took them on the doorstep of making it to the Super Bowl. I don't know what Jordan Love is, though. In year 3, that'll give me the answer that I'm looking for. That'll give us all the answer that we're looking for. Jalen Hurts had 2 years of playing at a high level for us to know what he was, to calibrate where we can rate him. We don't know where to rate Jordan Love right now. Coming into last year, he was in a lot of people's top 10s. Now, I don't know. I don't know if I still look at him as a top 10 quarterback at the moment. And last, I got Tua. Tua isn't last due to him being terrible. He's really good, actually. He's pretty consistent. If we were to do a redraft of that 2020 draft, Tua would still be a first-round pick. He probably still gets drafted pretty high. Maybe not top 10, but definitely in the top 15. In terms of stability, that's what you get from Tua. You definitely can do a lot worse than Tua, but he definitely is a quarterback that if you have the opportunity to do better, you can do better. Injuries have been a major factor in his career as well, although he was pretty healthy for these past 2 seasons until this year happened with the whole concussion thing and whatnot. But Tua, I say he's a fringe top 10 quarterback. You're asking for me to use too much brain power right now to rank all of my top 10 quarterbacks. That's a segment for another day. But I'll say he's around 8 or 9, maybe 10. He's good against average, below average teams, against the best competition, especially in the most important months during the season, which is late November to early January. That's when he tends to fall off the cliff. But he gives you stable quarterback play. He'll probably, in the next 4 or 5 years, be the new generation's Kirk Cousins. You know, in the right situation, he's going to deliver, but he just isn't going to give you big-time performances come January to get you into a Super Bowl. So these are my quarterback rankings for the quarterback class from the 2020 draft. Give your rankings down in the comment section down below. I'm continuing my series where I go division by division and give every head coach a rating 0 through 100 based off their job performance. We are doing approval ratings for the AFC West. We're going to start off with Big Red, Andy Reid. He has a perfect rating of 100. They weren't able to three-peat. It was a disastrous performance. Overall, big picture, that was a successful season. What Kansas City has done these last 3 years has been nothing short of impressive and phenomenal, considering these teams haven't been that talented. They haven't been that good at receiver. Defensively, they've been great on that side of the football, and that's been carrying them. Mahomes hasn't played at the MVP level that he once was when he first came into the league. And in spite of that, they somehow have played their best football. They've won more games than they ever had. They only lost 1 game during the regular season, really. That Broncos loss doesn't count. Andy Reid, expect Kansas City to continue to be in a Super Bowl discussion for years to come. They might not win it for the next 6-7 years, but they definitely will still be in the picture. Jim Harbaugh, I give him an approval rating of 97. In his first season, he completely changed the culture of the Chargers franchise. This is arguably the best hire the Chargers have ever made. He overachieved with cap constraints, a roster that didn't have that much talent, and yet he elevated what he had to work with. He got the most out of Quentin Johnston, who was a bust up to this point. Justin Herbert had the most efficient season of his career. He got the Chargers to the playoffs. And with a good offseason that's going to allow Justin Herbert to get some more pieces around him, I expect the Chargers to end up being a Super Bowl contender this upcoming season. They're going in the right direction under Coach Harb. Sean Payton, my approval rating for him is a 94. Last season in Denver, it didn't go the way most expected it to. You would have thought he could have gotten a little bit juiced out of Russ, but you end up benching him. You have a really ugly divorce. You draft rookie quarterback Bo Nix, though, and you proved a lot of folks wrong this year. Bo Nix, the decision to draft him wasn't met with a ton of positive reviews. I'll leave it at that. There were a lot of C's, D's, L's due to some feeling he wasn't a first-round caliber quarterback. All Bo Nix did was have one of the best rookie seasons in NFL history, and he was the best rookie quarterback the Broncos have had since John Elway. He got them to the playoffs, folks, and a division that's really tough that also had 2 other playoff teams. Give Bo Nix his props. Bo Nix overachieved relative to what folks thought of him going into this year. And Sean Payton, same thing. Sean Payton low-key resurrected his reputation in the NFL with the job he did this year. Let's just be honest. Outside of Broncos fans, Sean Payton had a lot of haters. with the way he handled the Russell Wilson benching. But one thing about Sean Payton is that he's honest and he just knows ball. And when he moves on from you, it's for a really good reason. And the success he had in year one with Bo Nix has me really optimistic about the outlook of this franchise for the next couple of years. When they continue to get more receivers and get more talent on that squad, they're going to be right up there with the Chargers and the Chiefs being Super Bowl contenders themselves. The outlook for this division overall is really bright. And this is probably going to end up being the most competitive division in the NFL sooner rather than later. And this is the only division to have all four coaches that have perfect approval ratings. Pete Carroll has a 100 due to him just being a new hire. So he hasn't done anything. I already like what he's doing, though. You have a great staff. You have Patrick Graham as your defensive coordinator, one of the better DCs in the game. Chip Kelly is one of the most influential offensive minds that the NFL has seen in the last decade. What he did at Oregon has heavily been influential for the modern offenses that we see ran in today's NFL. Same effect he's had on college football. Making him your offensive coordinator was a huge W for Pete Carroll. If they can get the quarterback situation figured out, they got a lot of cap space to sign somebody like a Sam Darnold, maybe an Aaron Rodgers. You get a receiver or two, an offensive lineman, draft a few as well. The Raiders could be a potential playoff team. So these are my approval ratings for the AFC West head coaches. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Cooper Kupp is not worth trading for. If your favorite team needs a wide receiver, you do not want them to make a move for Cooper Kupp. The guy in the last 3 seasons has missed 18 games. He turns 32 in July, which is the prime age for wide receiver regression. He has a massive contract. Even if the Rams are willing to pay some of it, it still isn't worth the durability concerns and the potential production that you're going to get out of him. Cooper Kupp is no longer an elite receiver. His play over the last 3 seasons since he was a Triple Crown winner in 2021, he led the league with over 1,900 receiving yards, 145 catches, and 16 touchdowns. And since then, he's been downhill. In 2021, that lone season, he had 11 games with 100 receiving yards or more. And out of 16 of 17 of those matchups, he had at least 90 receiving yards. Since then, he's only had 12 games of 100 yards receiving or more. And that's over the last 3 years. He had that nearly in 1 season alone. And just overall, looking at Cooper Kupp's career, he's a tad bit overrated considering the production that he's had. He's only had really 2 good seasons and only 2 seasons where he has surpassed over 1,000 yards. He hasn't really had this phenomenal career. He's had a great run when he's been at his peak and he's been healthy. And you know, if you are able to get Cooper Kupp on the free agency market for a veteran minimum deal, or you can get him for $7-8 million for 1 year, that's a risk worth taking. At this point, though, trading a 3rd or 5th round pick, any pick for Cooper Kupp, it's just throwing away draft capital. You are throwing away draft picks for somebody that is going to take a little bit of some salary cap space that you could use to get a younger, better option at receiver in free agency, or a draft pick that you're trading away that could be used on getting a wide receiver that could be a potential gem in the draft. Cooper Kupp at this age isn't worth trading for. With this contract, it just isn't worth it. And the production probably isn't going to match the return on investment. We have to stop holding on to certain players because of their name. Cooper Kupp kind of reminds me of OBJ now. That's what he's going to turn out to be these next 3 years. He's going to bounce around from 2 to 3 teams, and every time he gets picked up by a new team, you're going to have the storyline of could he revive his career, and it's never going to happen. Just like OBJ, every time he gets signed by a new team, it's like him just stealing money at this point. He's just surviving off name reputation. I don't know what OBJ has done at this point to continue to get these opportunities. Cooper Kupp, I see these next couple of years of his career playing out the same way. If the Rams want to move on from you this fast, that shows that there's a red flag about you we don't know about that the rest of the league is about to find out. They move on from folks at the right time